Zach, and I am privileged to be able to be on staff here at Victory Christian Church as the student minister, which means I get to hang out with all you guys on a weekly basis and make fun of videos that you send in for the point of entertainment and a game. So thank you guys for being here this morning. We're going to dive into something today that I think is just incredibly important, that it's something that we talk about all the time, but at the same time, it's something that we don't talk about in very much depth super often. And so what I want to talk to you guys about, it has to do with, with not being alone, really. How many of you guys who've ever been put up to do something that you did not want to have to do by yourself? Like, for instance, Double Dog Dare-a-thon, those of you who participated. How many of you would have done any of those things if you didn't have anybody else to do it with you? Right? You probably would. Jared would. But most of you probably wouldn't just volunteer to eat some hot sauce on your own if you didn't have a bunch of people doing it with you, because it makes it, one, more fun, and it means like, hey, if one of us is going to look stupid, at least I'm not going to be the only one, right? I don't want to, even if you were to go like to a theme park with your friend, you don't want to go on the roller coaster by yourself. What if your friend was like, I'm going to go get some funnel cakes, you go on the roller coaster, and that was like the case all day? It would be boring because you like to experience it with somebody. You like to do things with people. And so there's things that we just don't like to do alone. When I was I was going to be a junior in high school, so a couple years older than some of you guys, but I remember I went to this camp that was in Ohio, and ironically enough, it was at Cedarville University, which now we've taken our high school students to see how I moved there several times. And so before I'd even been working here or gone there in that context, I went to that university for a different camp that they were doing one summer. And it was a camp that I would not have heard of or had any interest in going to had I just gone by myself. It was something that I went with just my best friend Kyle, and it was just him and me, and he was the only person I knew at that camp, and it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. It was a great week of camp, but I would not have gone or been comfortable going by myself where I didn't know anybody. Even if you're an extroverted person, most people don't like to do things alone. Most people don't like to go off and just have to figure things out by themselves or experience things on their own. It's lonely, and in fact, at church, we believe that that's so important that you have people with you that have your back, that we set up our weekly programming to include things like small groups. Because we believe that faith is one of those things that you shouldn't just experience by yourself. And most of the people that try to just have a strong faith by themselves usually end up losing their faith. Because faith is not an individual thing. I mean, it is. There's some personal responsibility there. There's things that you've got to come to a decision about. There's things that you have to personally put faith in. And when it comes to practically living out your faith, that doesn't happen alone. That happens with people. In fact, before the church ever became a building that people think about when they think of church, if you go on Google and look up church, you'll see a bunch of old European buildings that are empty, right? But church isn't a place, it's a people. It's a community. And so small groups is kind of built into that. But a lot of times we kind of resist this idea of small groups when it comes to faith for a lot of reasons. You talk about personal stuff sometimes. You talk about stuff that you're not comfortable sharing with everybody maybe, but some reasons that maybe small groups don't seem like a big priority at times are because, maybe you already have your own group of friends at school or in your sport or whatever. And so it's weird to think of like trying to force another friend group into your life through church, and it feels awkward at first, and it feels like, I'm not really all about that. Or maybe we wonder how we're supposed to just fit in with random people we don't know that well, and sometimes it feels like I said in the first thing, maybe it feels a little forced sometimes, and you don't know how to gel with these people. Maybe some of the people in your small group actually get on your nerves. Maybe there's people that you wouldn't say at church because that's not nice, but you think in your head, like, that person annoys me, and so you have a hard time connecting. Maybe it's that you don't trust the people in your group. Maybe you know that person outside of group at your school, and they're not a nice person, and so you're not going to trust them in group, or you've seen what they post on social media, or maybe you've shared before and they took what you shared in a private group setting and then shared it with other people, and then you got made fun of for it. And so maybe you just don't trust people in your group, or maybe you're the one that feels like you're judged or misunderstood by your mistakes. Maybe you just don't trust people not because of what they do, but because you have a perception of what they think of you. Maybe it's just a personality thing. Maybe you're not the real touchy-feely kind of person. You don't like to just share the things that you're thinking all the time. And so maybe there's a personality thing. Maybe there's things that you don't always, like I said, people with personalities that you don't get along with. Maybe there's things like that that just are a barrier for you at times. Or maybe it's just, that showing up and coming to church and being in small group is a part of your DNA because you've done it your whole life, and so you don't really think anything of it. But then it's just that. Once group is over, you don't really think anything of it. You go home, and then it doesn't really change your life. And then there we have another issue. But there's all that to say that there's lots of issues and obstacles that we have to overcome when it comes to connecting with a small group. Can we all agree? Sometimes human connection is not the easiest thing. And sometimes it helps when you have an organized structure, an organized way of putting people together, like a sports team. At least you all have the same interests, and you can, you make friends on your team. Or at school, you have friends at school because you're in the same class as them, and so you just naturally strike up friendships because you're around them for a long period of time. And sometimes there's people in your class that you're friends with immediately. Sometimes there's people in your class that you become friends over years of spending time together. Or maybe there's church. Maybe there is that organized way of saying, you know what, what's the most important thing about your life? Hopefully it's your faith. Hopefully that takes the number one priority. And at least it should, right? And then let's have friends kind of united around that, and that's where we get small groups. But again, human connection is not always the easiest, no matter under what structure. Sometimes relationships are tough. Sometimes they happen naturally, sometimes they don't. And what do you do when they don't? It's an excellent question. It's something that you should think about. It's something that we all should try to figure out together. But small groups. Let me let you in on a little bit of a secret here. And hopefully it's not really that big of a secret. Some of you know it's not because you've experienced this, but your small group has the potential to be the best thing for your life. It has the potential to be one of the best things that ever happens to you. Small groups can be the life-saving grace that you need in a season of struggle. Groups can be the thing that you depend on when you need to go to someone, and groups can be the thing that somebody else can depend on you for. Because a lot of times we think, if we're honest, we think a little bit inwardly. We think, well, I don't get much out of it or whatever. Or maybe that's true, but maybe God has you there so that other people can get something out of your life experience. And sometimes things aren't always about you. So small group has the potential to be one of the best things that ever happens to you. There's a book I want to read from in our New Testament. It's the book of Hebrews. And it's to a group of people known as the Hebrews. And these were people that had grown up as Jews, grown up as following the God of the Old Testament, and then Jesus came, the whole Easter thing, died on the cross, rose for the sins of all the people, and anybody who believes in Jesus can have new life and all this kind of stuff, the stuff that we celebrate each week at church. And this group of people, the Hebrews, now they're converted Christians from Judaism. And there's some stumbling blocks, there's some things they have to figure out. And at this point in time, there was no such thing as like the church that you think about when you think of like the American Christian church, where you go to buildings and you sing worship songs. They sang worship songs, but they didn't go to buildings. And it wasn't about the event. It wasn't about the service times. It was about community. It was about meeting together. And this is what the author of Hebrews writes to them. He says, "Let us think of ways to motivate one another to acts of love and good works." When you get around people that motivate you to not do loving things, you get around people that maybe get on your nerves, or there's a personality clash, or maybe they make you angry and it motivates you to want to kill something. He's saying, let's do the opposite. When we get together, let's motivate one another to acts of love and good works, and let us not neglect our meeting together as some people do, but encourage one another, especially now that the day of his return is drawing near. He's saying that this isn't about just checking something off your list. This isn't just about coming and just, showing up to sing some songs and listen to some Bible verses and then call it a day. The whole point of them meeting together was to motivate one another, to be there for one another, to be an integral part of each other's lives, because it was about the community. Church should equal community. When you think of church, you shouldn't think of a building. You shouldn't think of guitars. You shouldn't think of games. You should think of community. The relationships in your life that have the most impact and that matter, because they encourage your faith and motivate you towards love and good works. In other words, they motivate you to live the life God has planned for you in order to be there for the people around you and so that you can have people that are there for you. And the good news is that means that you have people that are in your life that no matter what the differences may be, you can be united because of Jesus. Our world talks a lot about unity. But sometimes we think that unity means that you have to agree about everything. Let's just have unity. But that's not unity. And when you read in the New Testament about the church in the first century, it says they had everything in common, but not because of all their opinions, not because of their personalities, not because of their interests. They had everything in common because of Jesus. So whatever differences they had, they didn't matter. They paled in comparison because of Jesus. And they were able to unite because of Jesus, who is the central point of their lives. And so community turns out to be the biggest thing when it comes to the church. And I want to let you in on secret number 2 today. It's this: you get out what you put in to small groups. You get out of small groups what you put into. In other words, if you just kind of show up, you don't really say anything, you don't really talk much, or maybe you're frustrated, maybe you don't really contribute, maybe you're discouraging to people, you are going to leave that small group feeling discouraged, and you're not going to feel any better about the church, you're not going to feel any better about Jesus, you're not going to feel any better about your faith. But if you come to small group, and you come with humility, you come knowing that everybody in there are people that are just your season of life, going through life, and maybe experiencing things from a different perspective, but ultimately experiencing a lot of the same things. You see that there are people in your group that are all just trying to do their best to honor Jesus, all struggling with different things, sometimes struggling with the same things, but all humans under the grace of Jesus. Well then, that has the opportunity to change your life, and you will get a lot more out of that than the person who just goes and kind of goes through the motions, or who doesn't really believe in the power of small groups. And in order to prove this to you guys, I want to share a little bit. I want to introduce you to some of you may know this person. I want to introduce you to Sydney. She's actually given her testimony before. They showed it in Big Church. So I want to show you her story a little bit, and then she and I are going to have a discussion for you guys.
My name is Sydney. I am a junior here, part of the Victory Student Ministry. My family's been going to Victory for about 5 months now. It started last year when I transferred to Franklin Community my sophomore year. A lot of the friends I made and became super close with, turns out, went to Victory, and they invited me to come to their high school gatherings. I came to my first gathering. It was the last one of the school year, and I really enjoyed it, and then they were over because of the summer, and so some of my friends were like, you should come to CIY, it's a lot of fun. I didn't really know what CIY was or a lot about it. I've had friends go in the past, but I never really knew what it was, what the environment was like, and I also didn't know a lot of the people here at Victory at the time, so I was super nervous to go, but I was like, why not? Let's go give it a try. So I signed up for CIY for this summer, and I went with some friends, and we got to CIY, and it was completely life-changing. It was an amazing experience for me. I learned so much. I grew so much in my faith. The worship time was really nice, being able to disconnect from being here at the church during the school year when everything at school and at home is super busy. Getting away and not having to worry about that and just being able to focus on my faith was super cool. So I really enjoyed that experience. And then I felt baptism kind of being called on my heart for a while now, and I felt that even more at CIY. So when I got back, I decided I wanted to take some time to get back to the school year and kind of get readjusted to the normal routine and make sure it was something that I was truly ready for. So we got back, I talked to Zach about my decision, and then I decided to get baptized. So this year in September, I was baptized, which was a super exciting experience for me. And it just kind of shows how much of a life-changing experience CIY is for so many students at our church. So we want to thank you for providing scholarships for myself and so many others through Above and Beyond, because it's providing those life-changing opportunities for so many students in our ministry. If you call Victory your church, would you and your family join us in Above and Beyond this year by giving a one-time sacrificial gift above your normal giving so we can continue to make life-changing impact in our community? Your generosity is changing lives forever.
welcome Sydney.
Hello.
So now, in the video you said you're a junior, but you're no longer a junior, right? You're about to graduate now. So
Yeah.
that was about a year ago. And so you're not new to this anymore. You're not a newbie. You've been around a little bit. You've been buying into this idea of small groups. And so share a little bit about that. What's your small group experience been like?
Yeah, so I'm a senior now, and I started coming to small groups in May of my sophomore year. So I'm almost 2 years in now. So I've been part of the senior small group this year, and it's just been a really good experience. When I first moved to Franklin my sophomore year, the friend group that I kind of connected with at school happened to all go here to Victory. And so in May of my sophomore year, they're like, hey, you should come to this high school gathering. I was like, I don't know about that. Like, I don't know anybody there. And I came, though, because I was interested in seeing what it was about, and I automatically loved it and took the jump over the summer to go to CIY, like I said, and to start coming to church here full time. So my family has been coming here full time. I've been a part of my small group ever since. It's been a really great group of ladies to connect with. Part of them I go to school with, part of them I don't, but we've all become really close and gotten to know each other and support each other.
So how have you guys become close? So like, obviously there's church every week, but what are some ways that you guys encourage each other? What have you put into group in order to get out of it, kind of like what we've been talking about? And maybe if you have any stories to share.
Yeah, so we have obviously small group every week, so we see each other then, but it's only like half an hour of small group. So we have a group meet and we all message each other. If we ever have like a prayer request, we might message each other and say, can you be praying over this for me? Just to stay connected through that. Some of them I see at school, so we're able to encourage each other during the school week as well. But we've been with each other through a lot. So obviously we went through the COVID-19 pandemic with each other, and that was like a big thing for everyone in this room. We were just able to really support each other through that. We did Google Meet, small group meetings, and we were able to just message each other like what we were reading in the Bible, or encouraging each other to come to the church events once we were able to hold those again. But we've all been through a lot together. Divorce, loss, obviously the COVID-19 pandemic, deciding on colleges and going through that transition into the next phase of our life, which obviously is all really heavy stuff, and we've just been able to support each other through all that. So I've been able to share what I've been going through during this past year and get that off of my chest and get advice from that and support from that. And I've been able to do the same thing for other people, just praying over one another, encouraging each other to come to group, and just spending time in fellowship with each other each week.
Awesome. So if you had one thing to share with a bunch of 5th through 8th graders who, you didn't join, like you said, till you were a junior in high school, really. And so, like, how would that have looked if you had been invested in a community like that from your middle school years?
I think if I would have been here since freshman year, it would have made my transition to Franklin so much easier, and just made that transition to high school a lot easier, because once I got to know people, it's made like going to school and going through COVID easier. And if I would have had that in that transition into like freshman year, when you're like starting a new phase of your life in high school, and in that transition of moving schools, I think it would have been a lot easier for me to adjust to that. I would have probably adjusted quicker than I did, because it's just such a strong support system to be a part of. So it's kind of like a scary experience at first to like open up and share for that first time. I remember when I first like opened up and shared about like personal stuff in my family. It was very difficult. There were some tears shed at that small group, but the support that I received back from them, and the advice has been worth opening up, and has made a lot of difficult periods in my life easier. And they've also been there with me to celebrate the good periods of deciding on colleges and like high school sports and all that stuff. They've been there through the good times as well. So
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming this morning and sharing. It means a lot. So
thank you.
it's been encouraging. Thank you. So you get out of small groups, what you put into small groups is the bottom line that I want you guys to take away from today. It really does have life-changing power. It has the ability to change a lot of things for you, and to just make your relationships with each other and with God deeper. So just some parting advice that I would give you before you dismiss into your own small groups is, one, commit to showing up. whether that means like on Sunday mornings, choosing the same hour each week, choosing to be invested in the same group of people, or that just means like continue. If you've got, I know some of you have traveling sports on weekends. If you make that step and make that effort to show up in the lives of the people in your small group outside of Sundays, then that will make a difference as well. Kind of like some of the stuff she talked about. Being trustworthy. You have the opportunity to make the small group environment that you're in a trustworthy one by your example. So make it a trustworthy group, and you'll get the most out of it. And then thirdly is owning it. If you take ownership and you're willing to lead by example, if you're willing to say this group will either be made or broken by my efforts in the group, then your group experience will be much better. And so show up, be trustworthy, own it, and you're going to have a great group experience. And those relationships that build over time will become more and more meaningful the more time you give into them. So you get out what a small group, what you put into small groups. Hopefully this is encouraging, and hopefully, the fun times like from last night and the experiences that you can have there are also weighed and measured by the awesome and the deep times that you can share through, if you've ever been to CIY or camp and you've had some of those conversations, you know that those can change your life. And there's several of you that have had conversations within your small groups on Sundays that have, I know, made a big difference in your life. So I just encourage you in that as well. Let me pray, and then you guys will dismiss to your small groups for a few minutes, and then we'll be done for the day.